second, James. What's your number?
Test, test. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
this is Susan from the town of Basalt. How are you?
Good.
I'm going
Test,
to end the
test.
call. And then, do you want to test me there? How's this? Okay.
Test, test. Test. Okay. Good, good.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you, Bill. Can you turn her volume?
Council person there?
No, we've got.
No, we,
Oh, I see lots of people. Woo! And there's her eminence.
Can you hear me okay? Good deal. Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Bill Kane, Mayor, and welcome. I think our first business for this evening is our Basalt Chamber Sign Committee, and Watkins is going to lead us through a discussion. And yeah, Susan,
Nope.
Dan, you guys are hands up.
Just wanted to do a quick roll call of who's present. Let's keep Jeff happy.
Excellent idea. Okay,
Okay.
let's do a roll call and then we'll get underway.
Awesome, thank you, sir. Gary Tenenbaum.
Here.
Bill Infante.
Here.
Glenn Drummond.
Here.
David Knight.
Here.
Elise Hoddle. Present. Ryan Slack. And Bill Kane.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so first order of business, we are going to take up a discussion about signage and entry signage with our Basalt Chamber Sign Committee. Watkins Folk-Gray is going to lead this discussion, and I notice we have Lynn Mace and Chris Matera is on with us too. I don't know if we have other chamber participants on tonight, but why don't you guys take it away?
Sure. Again, my name's Watkins. Thank you all for having us here tonight. On the sign committee, I just wanted to say everyone's name so everyone knows who's on the committee. We do have some of them present, but not all of them were able to make it. So the members are Philip Ring, who's with us, I believe, Tim Belinsky, who wasn't able to, Bill Simon, Melissa, Lynn Mace, who's our chair, and we also have Bennett Bramson. So I don't have too much to give you guys in a way of an introduction, but I just wanted to mention that the committee's main project in 2020 was for the east entrance sign. So this is the east entrance to Basalt, where Two Rivers Road hits Highway 82, which we know happens in two places. So we're talking about the east entrance, the east intersection. And so we did get the design done in 2020, and we put it out to bid, but unfortunately we got one bid that was way outside of our budget. And so we just kind of put the project on hold, and then COVID also put things on hold. But we're hoping that now when we put it back out to bid in the wintertime, when crews are starting to kind of make their plans and get work lined up for the summer, that it'll be a more favorable climate to put this out to bid. And so that's why we're requesting money that wasn't spent last year to come back in for this next year. And with that, we're happy to take any comments. Lynn Mace, who's on the line with us, may have some comments she wants to make. I know we also have Philip Ring with us. So Lynn, is there anything you want to add? If you can hear us?
No, are we sending out the bid that we rejected last year? We're not sending that bid out again, are we? Or are we? Are we waiting?
We're going to be doing some value engineering to try to make sure that we can get that bid down. But we're going to be sticking with the kind of general concept of that design. The design that we had made used the same landscape architects and designers that we've had do all of our wayfinding signs, all of our roundabout signs. And so there's kind of a consistent vernacular that we're striving for here to make this sign kind of fit in with the other signage and wayfinding things that we have in town.
And Watkins, I can actually put that up on the screen if you'd like.
I think that would be a good idea, James.
Sure.
I believe I can. Anyway.
Can I ask a question? This is Elise.
Yes, ma'am.
So I looked at the image that was in the packet, which I'm assuming is what James is putting up on the screen, and I see how the materials are consistent with the other signage around town, but I don't see consistency in the style. It's definitely seems more modern to me and not consistent with sort of the fish theme. So I was just curious what the thinking, the rationale behind that decision was.
Yeah, the consistency would be mainly with some of the materials. Obviously, what we want to do with the east entrance includes a lot of rock, a lot of basalt rock, and so that features a little bit, kind of a more minor feature in some of the wayfinding signs. For example, they have a basalt rock kind of bed that they lie in. And then the signage that we're proposing for the extensions also does use a lot of rusted steel, which is, one of the major components of the signs that we do have. So I would agree. It looks a little bit more modern, but it does use some of the same materials. And we hope that it's a consistent look, or at least something close to that.
I can provide some added context, Elise. What we're hoping to achieve with this is essentially bookend either end of town to create more of a welcome to Basalt, as opposed to specific wayfinding for a specific geographic area of, say, downtowns versus south side. So the intent is slightly different than some of the other pieces that have already been put forth through the sign committee and then through town in terms of manufacturing. So it was intended to be a little different.
And when you say bookend, does that mean that there will be a second version at the other end?
Other end being on the Willett side, so it'd be the fully encompassing all of Basalt and not just the Two Rivers Road, either side there. So, because otherwise it would just continue to bifurcate town in terms of the signage perspective.
Right, I guess what I'm asking is, will there be another version similar to this?
Mm-hmm.
And where
Yes.
exactly is that proposed?
I know we were looking at a couple different areas, but more on the Willits Elgibel line. The idea being that you would hit one sign going up Valley on Highway 82 as soon as you get to that Basalt Town line, and then on this east entrance, you would be getting it. You'd be having that notification from a visual standpoint as you're going down Valley from Aspen.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me. Thank you.
Okay, is it clear that that sculpture that Nick created there is not the sculpture that will be there? On the east entrance sign, the new sign that we're dealing with this spring or this year.
Yes, that's a great point, Lynn. What's in your packet, what's in the design that the designers gave us, that's for example purposes, but there is kind of a plinth on which public art could be placed.
Yes, the plinth we asked Nick to design a plinth there so that the Basalt Public Arts Commission could perhaps commission a sculpture for that plinth.
Are there any other questions for staff or committee members?
Watkins, Bill Kane here. What is the view of the entry feature signage at the roundabout on Basalt Avenue by the Bolero station as you come off of Highway 2? Will we have three? We would then have three sort of entry monument signs. Is that right, or are we just going to have two?
That's right, and four if you include the south side signage that's
Yeah,
that's in your packet. Okay. Yes, sir.
The roundabout sign was to be our signature monument sign, and all the other signs that we were going to create were a riff off of this. In other words, the material, etc. So this is the monument sign here.
Do you have a picture of the Willett sign?
I have one question. What do you guys have proposed for the Willett side? Or have you gotten there?
James, maybe you should jump in on that one.
It's a duplicate. Who's asking that question?
Glenn Drummond's asking the question. I think James is going to explain the status of that sign for a second.
There's a developer sign that's out on Highway 82 at Willits. It was just recently constructed. The concept that the sign committees discussed with chamber staff and town staff is to incorporate some of the kind of wall elements that are in the east entrance sign. Let me get up to that graphic here. So you see some of the wall element signs that are kind of wrapping the monument sign at the east entrance. The concept that was brought up by the chamber as well as the designer Nick Aceto was to do some wall kind of wrapping around that monument sign to make kind of a similar look and substance to the sign, but not construct another new sign down at Willits.
Okay.
So that would be the bookend.
That would be the bookend, yes. So I'll stop the share screen so everybody can see each other again. So the sign committee was wondering if council's got additional questions or comments. The sign committee was hoping to have a similar budget for 2021 that they didn't spend in 2020.
And just maybe some additional information is, we've been taking the capital out from the sign committee. Actually, we've been using real estate transfer assessments. So any portion of the sign in East Basalt is programmed to come from the Roaring Fork Club real estate transfer assessment and not from the general fund. And then any work that we do in West Basalt would come from the Willits RETA. So, kind of tag teaming on with James. I think what the sign committee is kind of looking for is, remember, the committees are kind of coming to you at this point in the calendar to, one, talk about their work program in 2021, and two, to talk about what that means in terms of the budget. So what they're proposing is a similar budget to last year. I think it's $55,000. But it's not coming from the general fund, and then they were planning on value engineering the sign that they have in the packet and sending it back out to bid. So if you guys have, like, the budget doesn't sound right, it'd be good to hear from you. And also, I think if you don't like the sign and you want to ask the sign committee to do more work on it, again, I think that this is when we want to hear that. And I don't know if anybody else on the sign committee wants to jump in. I know it does look like we have Philip on. We had Philip on, and Bennett Bramson's also on. I don't know if they wanted to add anything, but that's really the two key things that they're looking for direction on. Obviously you're not approving the budget, but you're kind of giving direction to administration to, yes, include this in the budget, and two, you're kind of looking at, does this sound right for the east entrance sign?
I don't really have much to add, Susan. That sounds fair and correct to me.
Yeah. I'd say good to go.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I really appreciate, over the years watching this sign committee create a different identity for Basalt. So it's been kind of fun to watch, sometimes slow, but it's moving and it's getting there. So
Slow evolution, but yeah.
Slow evolution. There you go. I like that. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, guys.
Gary.
Yeah, it looks good. Dave to work.
So what is that backdrop? It looks like you're at Cheyenne Mountain or something. It's an underground nuclear center.
Oh, dear.
You're on mute, Philip.
Are there additional questions or concerns from council for kind of progress on signs from the Basalt Chamber?
I'm a little concerned that this one, originally it was at 45, now they're asking for 55, and I previously requested what was spent on the other signs earlier today. So this is, granted those were done, the most recent one was in 2018, and that was 40,000 with an additional 10,000 for lighting, but it just seems like such a simple design for so much money. But I like the idea of having the footing, I don't know what the proper word is, to install some kind of
Platform.
sculpture platform.
Yeah, a platform for public art.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I, for one, I really liked the fish
Original.
signage, the confluence, and I don't think that is specific to Old Town Basalt. I just think that's representative of Basalt in general. So I kind of missed the fish tying everything together, but that's just me.
That's why we have our little chamber logo on it. That is the do you see the chamber logo? Is it on this? James, can you show that again?
Yeah, I'm working on it. Just a quick second.
We have the chamber. We figured the pinch didn't go for the two ends. Actually, it's not on there, but it is on the last one that Nick designed, I think.
Yeah, this appears to be an older rendition, but what Lynn is talking about is...
Here's the logo.
Oh,
There. Oh.
the chamber logo
It looks good.
would be added to it. You could see it up in the corner of the monument sign.
And to be clear, this is the sign committee logo, not the chamber's logo. And at least, like, as this has been and then been commented, an evolution over time in terms of design and identity for Basalt, we're trying to maintain as many consistent elements throughout the course of these different designs while taking into consideration the different purposes behind each sign. So that logo has been added on all, whether the monument sign, the south side sign, and all the other areas. Is just trying to maintain some level of consistency with the look and feel, recognizing that we at this point have 3 more signs remaining, including this is east entrance sign. And then when we're done, we're hopefully done with this.
Done.
I think you guys are doing a good job. Looks good. Move forward. That's my 2 cents.
I agree.
Okay, well, thank you guys. I think Basalt is going to be easy to find now, I think, with 4 entry signs. We should not miss it on the road now. So I think the one at Two Rivers will be very helpful, and personally appreciate all your efforts. And, I hope this is not a case whereby the amount of and sort of prominence of entry signage is not somehow inversely proportional to the interest of the place that people are actually coming to. So that's convoluted, but
Can I speak to that? Yes? I don't know. We've asked Nick not to make, that sign looks monumental, the east entrance sign, but it's not going to be. It's going to be in keeping with the space and the fact that the town does not want to call a huge amount of attention to Two Rivers Road. Is anybody hearing me? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks enormous. It's not going to be.
Okay. All right. We have exhausted our time on the sign committee, so thank you guys. We appreciate your efforts and appreciate you dialing in tonight. And at this point, we will thank you, and we have to move forward with our meeting with Basalt Child Care Coalition. So thanks, guys.
For your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Sarah Nadolny is next up and is going to give us an update on where we are with the Child Care Coalition. There were some very helpful materials describing the state of affairs and budget outlook. So Sarah, the floor is yours, and I notice we have some board members and participants online as well. So you might want to introduce everybody and
Absolutely.
let us know where we are. This is a hot topic for everybody in town, I'm sure.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, I'm here to discuss the Basalt Early Childhood Coalition, discuss the 2021 proposed work plan as well as budget requests. So we do have some members of the coalition here today that I want to introduce. We have Dustin Anderson of Peak Architecture, Joni Goodwin with Early Childhood Network, Shirley Ritter is here with Kids First, and Lee Carlson Hernandez is also here with Eagle County. So just to give just kind of a brief introduction, the Early Childhood Coalition, which I think was called the Child Care Coalition at that time, was founded in 2007 as a coalition of between a number of local entities who merged together to leverage resources, all with an interest in providing high quality and affordable child care for those who are living and working within Basalt's 3-mile planning area. And historically, the council has provided funding to the coalition for projects that fall within a few different categories, these being first is tuition assistance, second quality improvement and capacity planning, as well as public engagement. So I'm going to turn this over to Shirley Ritter to speak to a couple of those topics.
Hi, thanks for allowing us into your meeting tonight. I always kind of like to be there in person, but tonight with the weather, I'm kind of glad we can Zoom in, right? So the things that I want to address a little bit are capacity planning, and that is something that has continued. We know that we're still making progress, hopefully, towards a facility at Parcel 2E. We want that to become a reality in the not-too-distant future. We're still seeing a need for quality, licensed childcare. It's not decreasing. All of the centers have wait lists. Right now that we are at the steps where we can begin to refine the plans and the materials, create a narrative, pro forma, and hopefully take the project to potential funding partners. So to that end, the coalition is requesting $7,500, same as in 2020, to keep this work moving forward. The other area that I wanted to talk about a little bit is public engagement. So in 2020, we received $7,500 in order to do outreach in the community. And as we all know, that outreach, what we do, how we do it, it doesn't look anything like it probably was planned 6 or 8 months ago. So instead of community meetings and large gatherings, we've reduced that. We're asking for $2,000 in the 2021 budget. We'll be doing some messaging to the public, particularly about the importance of early childhood education, about quality and what that looks like, increased capacity, long-term community benefits for everyone, not just for children and not just for their parents. And it could also be used, and this increased awareness will help us, I think, find those funding partners for Parcel 2E. So the other thing that we asked for in 2020 was money for a needs assessment. We were asked to come back with data around what the actual need was, what ages, where, all of that information. Well, again, we were granted that $10,000. It was carry forward funding, I believe. We began the initial work. We worked with Karen Harrington with the City of Aspen, who does these kinds of surveys and needs assessments all the time. But the work stopped because of the pandemic. There was just too much economic instability. It wouldn't have made any sense to spend the money to do this at a time and not gotten good results. So we anticipate the ability to do that in 2021. Everybody keep your fingers and toes crossed, I hope. We want to move forward with that. We're asking for that $10,000 to be reinstated, I guess, for 2021. And we will be able to bring back that important information to the council. Also, just for a point of information, we are, in this region, all 4 counties, we are a part of the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council, and they have done a regional assessment that we will be able to use as part of our more specific child care needs evaluation. That report looks at really a region-wide conditions for children and for families, from housing, transportation, family economics, health, mental health, and other social determinants. So we're going to focus down on that a little bit, but we can use some of that for some really powerful background. And then just to wrap up a little bit, I know a lot of people aren't familiar with the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council, but most of us are members on that council. They have distributed emergency supplies and funding during the last few months to the child care programs in the Basalt area. And you should know that this is in addition to the normal services that they provide, including providing a Colorado Shines rating, funding for coaching and materials to improve quality in those programs. They also offer small capital improvement grants for programs that want to increase their infant and toddler capacity, like adding a room. So that's really important work too. And I really like that children and families really benefit from funding that comes from a variety of different organizations that we can leverage with the intention, like Sarah mentioned, it's really about improving quality, increasing capacity, and allowing affordability. So that's my 2 cents. I think Joni comes up next. Thank you.
Good summary, thank you.
Hi, I'm Joni Goodwin. I am the Director for Early Childhood Network and have been on the coalition for years. And I oversee 2 of the initiatives that are funded through the town of Basalt. One of them is the Quality Improvement Initiative. So in the past, we've received $15,000 to go towards teachers who are setting professional goals to improve the quality of their classrooms. These dollars have helped, well, at the end of the year, the teachers receive the dollars for meeting their goals, which typically have something to do with improving outcomes for children, classroom setup, the interactions with children, and then also it helps with their professional development. So it gets them up to lead teacher or director qualified, and then also helps retain them in the classroom. So if they move from classroom to classroom, they don't receive this funding. So, or if they quit before the year's out, they don't receive this funding. It's typically a couple $100s a piece, and it's just an incentive for them to set up these goals. So we asked $15,000 for it in the year 19 to 2020, and we'll be respectfully asking the same in our 2021 budget. And then the last piece is the tuition assistance, and this is what I feel is very crucial to the Basalt area. And this money goes towards the families who are looking for financial aid in their tuition assistance. So in 2020, we've received about $60,000 for the last 3 years from the town of Basalt for this tuition assistance. And this year, we have our highest number of people who have used those dollars. We have 11 children and 9 different families that have used that tuition assistance or have been able to bring their children to childcare because of the tuition assistance. It's really important to us, and probably more so because of the pandemic and people being in more of a financial crisis right now. So for 2021, we will be submitting a request for the same $60,000 amount.
Thanks, Joni. I wanted to ask Lee, would you like to add anything about our partnership with Eagle County?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lee. I am the Early Childhood Manager for Eagle County, and we have been partnering with the Basalt Coalition to really strengthen the work that they are doing in Western Eagle County. So between March and July, we have spent over $200,000 in support programs to those centers through their our infant toddler subsidy, our new hire incentives and our mini grants. And then also, in addition to that, have spent over $60,000 in the area for COVID relief for those centers as well, to help kind of bridge the gap between the revenue losses due to COVID. In addition to that, we do have a contract with Early Childhood Network to support the coaching and the quality in those centers, and do some parent education, as well as we are going to be doing an impact survey with all of our providers in Eagle County and all of the teachers that have received any kind of funding from us, to try to understand what was impactful and what was meaningful to them. So that is going to be going out in the next couple weeks, and we can also share some of that data. We do have this year a data dashboard that is something that we can share with you, that gives a kind of a summary of a lot of different components. We're trying to get better data on the average cost of care, the average cost of tuition, the average salary ranges for those staff in the area. And for 2021, we have not yet decided on our strategic and budgetary requirements. We are going to be doing that shortly.
Thank you very much, Lee. I think we would love to turn it over to council to have a discussion about the work plan and budget requests, and see what council thinks and get some direction.
Yeah, Ryan, just maybe a point of clarification. So the 2020 budget was, we allocated $94,000 from general fund dollars, and the implication of these, I don't know if it's a request or sort of just information at this point. Would you explain that? It looks like that takes us to 94, but then there's an unspent carry forward of $10,000 or something to that effect. Would you just take us through where we are there?
Sure. So the $10,000 that was allocated towards the needs assessment was separated out from the regular budgetary request for 2020. It came out of council funds, and Susan, you might have to help me explain that a little bit further. But the understanding was, if that money up to $10,000 was not spent in 2020 towards this needs assessment, then it would be returned to council. And so, again, because of the craziness and uncertainty with the pandemic, there was really no way to get it going, to get useful data. And so that will be returned. That $10,000 will be returned to council.
Yeah.
And then the new budget for 2021 is the $94,500, and within that $94,500, it includes $10,000 for the needs assessment.
Okay, so there's no urgency for us tonight we can take that up when we take up the 2021 budget?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. They are wonderful summaries, and you're trucking along here in some pretty challenging times. Demand is up and supply is down. That's a tough proposition that you're facing, and I know that everybody in the community is deeply grateful for the service and kind of compassion that you guys provide. So really good work. Thanks. So council, any comment, question?
Yeah, I think Gary and Ryan both sit on that group. They both might want to add something.
I know Gary and Ryan Slack have been heading up our council representatives to the Child Care Coalition, so it'd be good to hear from those guys. Gary had his hand up, and he's got Western Colorado as a backdrop behind him there, so he can speak for a lot of people, I'd see.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I think one of the critical components of this and the funding that has really made the hugest difference is the financial assistance piece. And it seems like a lot of money, but this is, even pre-COVID, this was critical. Post-COVID or during COVID, there's no post-COVID yet. But with COVID going on, considering we're doing rental assistance and Basalt bucks, this is a really huge help to, Basalt residents and the Mid-Valley area, for people to keep their kids in childcare and to be able to, the fact is a lot of people still have to go up to work. Not everyone's on Zoom all the time, and they need to have that childcare, and it's a critical component. And one of the other things is the quality component. The question I have for the coalition is on the quality component. How does that work in COVID? Is there a piece of that goes to the COVID? Because I know, I live next to Adele in growing years, and it's just COVID has created so many, hurdles that you guys have been trying to get over. And so how is that going to be used for that? Is that a piece of that puzzle? Because I think, going forward, the quality has to be also safety for COVID. So I don't know if any of you can answer that.
So the quality improvement money that we have had in the past and that we're using this year does go to teachers setting their own goals for professional development, and whether that includes a health and safety piece or how to get through the pandemic. We do have coaching to go along with this, Gary. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but yeah, we definitely, with the funding from Eagle County especially, have quality pieces built in. We're not allowed as coaches into the classrooms, but we're on Zoom with them and doing meetings with them over the phone on a regular basis. So we've also used a lot of our resources to distribute resources, COVID resources, to the programs, help them connect with rules and regulations, and make sure that they're abiding by all the safety practices that COVID has in place.
Yeah, I would just add, we've had regular meetings, conference calls, Zoom meetings, Joni and I both have with these programs, because they are working incredibly hard. They are doing health checks outside every morning. They are checking temperatures. They're keeping their own staff as healthy as they can. And it's a lot of work, but I think they are as committed as we all are that, they don't want to just survive, and that was goal one, but they really want to come out of this thriving. They want to be better programs. They've been through the Colorado Shines rating. Most of them will go through that again. And so to see that commitment on behalf of the programs and for the families and kids is just, it's really awe-inspiring. I will say that.
And I think one of the sorry, Gary, go ahead.
If I may ask, what is the state of progress on planning for Parcel 2E out at Willits, the child care center there? I think the notes that I read said that you were making pretty good progress. COVID hit, and we ran into a wall. Is that work going to resume in terms of strategic planning, architecture, site planning, building?
I'd like to say that it's going to be able to proceed. Dustin has put together a number of very good models so far, drawings and modeling, and he is actually kind of our interior expert of knowing what the requirements are to build a child care center, especially if there would be any portion of residents, any residences on the site. So he's worked really hard with that and with the fire department and such. What we'd like to do, we actually did do some boring out there with to get some earth samples so we can understand more about the land and what can actually be put on the land, whether we can go subgrade. There's a lot of questions that are still out there, but a lot of progress that was made. And so Dustin, I'm not sure if he's able to speak or not. I know he's got his kids and such in the background, so he might not be able to get on. What we had talked about next is really kind of refining those materials and coming up with a pro forma that we could use in order to start looking at some funding partners for the site. Dustin, did you want to add anything? I saw you get off for a moment there, or got on rather.
I was just unmuting to show that I'm here if you needed me to speak up, but basically, from my perspective, we've been on pause and ready to take up the work and continue with the one or two of the plans that we had previously discussed with council.
Okay. Great. Well, maybe next time we meet, we would schedule a time to, I don't know how far along you are, whether you have floor plan or any specific building plans. I think that certainly the town and this council will have an interest in making sure that we're providing all the assistance you guys need to move that forward. So, I think we will not, I think we'd be trying to be very proactive. I think all of us are very supportive of child care. We know what it means in terms of relieving parents so they can work. It's all part of this really difficult economic formula that everybody's going to face here in the next couple of years. So, just, I guess, keep us in mind and make sure we stay informed about progress. And if you hit a wall with capital work, we can certainly brainstorm and figure out how to help you move forward with that.
Great. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from council of David Knight?
Just really quick, thanks for all the work. Like Gary was saying, given the circumstances, it's more important than ever. I'll just ask, is the tuition assistance line item, do you think that's adequate for the demand, given the circumstances right now?
I don't know that we'll ever have money left over, let's put it that way. We've worked to refine our process, ensuring that each individual that applies goes first through other channels they may be eligible for through funding prior to seeking funding through the town. Certainly you might want to add some more on that. I just know that there's never anything left over, let's put it that way. Anything you'd like to add, Shirley?
Well, I would agree, and I think Joni would chime in too. We try to sort of contain the program so that it meets the budget the best that it does, because there are ways that we could allow more people to apply and support that. And I think part of that, has been restricted by the budget. Part of it has been restricted because there aren't a lot of open spaces for childcare. I think if that capacity does expand, I think we would expect to see a proportional need for more childcare financial aid.
We did have a family that qualified this fall for financial assistance, and she ended up not being able to get her child in a child care program.
Okay. Additional questions, comments?
I just want to say thank you for recognizing that the public engagement piece was changing and to match the budget to what is actually doable at this point. And otherwise, this looks great to me.
Yeah, good comment. Anyone else? Ryan Slack, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would just like to thank everyone that's on this committee. I know how much work Shirley and Joni and Lee and Sarah, Susan put into this, and it's been really, I enjoy serving with them, and there's an endless amount of need. So happy that the town can get behind something like this and support where we can.
Nice. Okay. Well, with that, I think we'd like to thank everybody. This is a helpful update. We look forward to doing this frequently and often, and just make sure we're here to help. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point for council, we had scheduled a little bit of a break between now. I got 5:51, and we're going to regroup at 6 o'clock. So you have about a 10-minute break here. And so let's plan on being back on the screen here at 6 p.m. your time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to the Basalt Town Council meeting for September 8, 2020. I would like to begin the meeting by asking our town clerk to call the roll.
Happy to, Mayor. Let's begin. Glenn Drummond.
Here.
Ryan Slack.
Here.
Jerry Tenenbaum.
Here.
Bill Infante.
Here.
David Knight.
Here.
Elise Huddle.
Present.
And Bill Kane.
Here.
All present, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. First order of business is approval of a consent agenda. Consists of 3 items: minutes from August 11, 2020, minutes from August 25, 2020, and letter of support for the Mountain Pack. What's up, Pam?
So, we caught another little error in the 8:25 minutes, which I sent out this afternoon and just sort of amended the paragraph altogether. I had an incomplete sentence at one of the paragraphs, so I deleted the following sentence and added the corrections and resent that this afternoon. So
Okay.
it had to do with Bach and their desire to what they wanted to do with their funding.
Okay. I assume we can, in approving the consent agenda, we can approve the consent agenda subject to the amended minutes as amended from August 25th. Is that right, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
So with that note, Susan, you had your hand up too. Did you have something?
No.
Okay. All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mayor, this is Bill Infante. I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented and as amended, or as edited.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right. So moved and seconded. We can just do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none, thank you. Consent agenda is approved. At this point in the meeting, we'll make a call to the public to see if we have public comment. I will remind our viewers that please limit your comments to 3 minutes and address your comments directly to the mayor. Identify yourself by name and address when making comments. Comments should be courteous, civil, and constructive, and town council will make no decision or take action except to direct the town manager. So with that, Susan, I think we will stand by and wait to see if we have any public comment.
Right, and just a reminder to email planning@basalt.net or text 970-987-7010 with your name and your phone number, and we'll give everyone a couple minutes to indicate whether they want to speak. So far, we have not received any texts or emails before the meeting that anyone wanted to speak during this time.
All right. Well, we can wait a few minutes here, see if we have any interest. Okay, well, how much more are you putting a timer on it?
Yeah, I have a timer on it, maybe 20 more seconds and we'll be good.
Okay. All right.
So I think we're good. Let me just double check. I don't have any emails and we don't have any texts, right? So I think we're good to go, Bill.
Thank you very much. Not hearing from the public, then we can turn to our next agenda item, which is the mayor and council reports and comments. So the floor is open for comments from council or reports on your various committee or board assignments. So have a go here. David Knight.
I'll just give some updates from the Roaring Fork Conservancy meeting last week, or actually 2 weeks ago at this point. So there's, probably a lot of you guys know, there's a new program for fly fishing for kids with Basalt Rec that the Conservancy is working on. So thank you, Brian, for helping with that. Something that's going to make, another activity for kids to do, but also make fly fishing more accessible, which is pretty cool. There's details on the website, on the Conservancy site, and there's also some additional programs you can check out there too. And just quick update on what the Conservancy is doing. They are working with Glenwood Springs on a riparian setback, and so that's just an interesting tidbit. You can read about it in the Post Independent, a local organization here in town, impacting the valley. And then finally, there's a winter lease, and Jeff probably could speak to this in more detail. I'm not going to ask him to, but a winter lease, I'm still getting used to all these different concepts and everything to get more flow in the frying pan to prevent anchor ice. That's going to be similar to what happened in 2018, I believe. And that's with the Colorado River District and the Water Conservation Board. But yeah, that's something that's in process as well. But that's all I have.
Great. Thanks, David. Anyone else? All right.
Just real quick, I know I say it probably almost every meeting. The funds for RUWAPA are helping protect Rudai Reservoir from the invasive mussels. This year, they're up to 17 boats. I don't remember exactly what was last year, but I think we're 6 to 8 boats ahead of last year. So the program is working. We're protecting Rudai. The staff couldn't be nicer up there. And I just think it's an amazing amenity for our town in the valley, and love that we're a part of RUWAPA and continue to support them.
Excellent. Thank you. Gary?
After reading about and hearing about the car crash on Frying Pan Road, I had an incident earlier this year I told you guys about on a bike, and I really think it's time for the town to really try to work with Eagle County and kind of really try to pressure Eagle County to do more for that road. I think the safety on that road has diminished for road cyclists, and it's definitely, there's a lot of accidents that are happening up on that road. And, the fact is the amount of use that happens up at Rudai really deserves, that road to have more attention to not just signage, but where can they, I just like it that would like to be on their radar for safety improvements on that road. There's plenty of opportunities to, potentially widen it and stuff. So I just wanted to get kind of the feel from council if we wanted to make more of a council request of Eagle County just to look at Frying Pan Road at the safety and really to increase that, because I just seen a decline in the safety, and I've talked to other people who live in Basalt who just don't feel that comfortable riding that road anymore. So anyway, I'm just putting it out there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think we all sense it up there for sure.
Gary, as a little bit of feedback, I did exchange some emails. Bernie Grauer informed me that he was notified of some additional signage that was going to be put up along there for cyclists specifically. And so I think, Bernie had been reaching out to them. You'd reached out to them at the beginning of the year. So while signage is certainly not the cure-all. It helps to inform motorists of keeping 3 feet between cyclists and your vehicle. So every little bit helps. Thanks.
And Gary, I would like to throw out too, I have seen more sheriff presence than normal. So I know you had made that request to both counties, and I actually saw 2 different county sheriffs this weekend, multiple times.
I bet you frying pan folks aren't happy about that one, but but you know, I think that's a big piece of the puzzle. I just like to keep that on their radar as they go into next year. Susan had something.
Well, yeah, I just wanted, it might be a good time to reach out as they're working in the budget process. The Roaring Fork Valley Regional Planning Commission adopted the Mid-Valley Trails Plan last Thursday, and one of the things that the Regional Planning Commission added was to work on this frying pan corridor study. So it might be a good time just to kind of put it in front of the radar of the commissioners that funding the effort would be a good plan too.
Yeah, okay. Excellent. Anyone else?
Bill, we had swapped an email or 2 about Renee Lujan's proposal that we solicit funding under a CDOT grant that is available to assist restaurants that have expanded during the summer, but which will be losing their extended seating when the temps drop. So wanted to ask if we could pursue that on behalf of the restaurants and see if we can get them some of this $30,000 or $50,000 that's up for grabs.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. Yeah, I passed that on. I know Ryan Mahoney had some independent contacts too, so maybe Ryan, you could tell us what you know.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I did reach out to CDOT just to see what the grant was all about, and you know, a little bit later you're going to hear from staff with regard to a proposal to reach out to the restaurants as well as retail establishments to get some feedback on what might help this winter with regard to business help from the town. And the CDOT grant representative, the person that's heading it up, did say that, you know, just applying for a tent on an individual's property wouldn't be viable, and that they really want to see it be sort of a broad benefit to the community generally. There are some parameters that it has to be tied back to transportation. So just doing a tent probably doesn't get you funding. They're trying to see where you have perhaps an element like that, but tying in transportation such as street benches or bike racks or things that actually have a nexus to what that organization does. And you know, I think for staff, what we've been working on, because we kind of figured that tents, that question would come up, and so we are getting with the fire district. We have a meeting scheduled for this Thursday just to kind of understand what the issues are, but I did get my hands on some information about tents generally, and what some of the issues that exist with them, and I won't go through the list of it. But we just want to keep public safety in mind first and foremost. And there are some issues with, you know, heating those spaces with snow loads, wind loads, and air circulation as well. When you don't have air exchange in a tent like that, like a restaurant might with an HVAC system, you can potentially increase the risk of COVID. And so we want to understand that before we go and invest. And so it would be, you know, staff's recommendation to come back, as we'll talk in a bit, once we gather some information from these businesses, and then we can see about writing the grant. The one issue I will throw out there with writing a grant is we may just have to look for outside help with that and hire a grant writer. As you know, the grants are somewhat tedious and just require some detail. So that's sort of the update that I have on that. So.
Okay. We'll pursue it. Find out.
Okay. And then, Bill, I guess just for just kind of future discussion, I understand there's a little bit of movement on the riverfront parcel, that some of the development that we had thought was going to be there may not. And I'd love to raise this either in the context of our September 15th meeting or at the next council meeting, because it threatens to materially change the project that was proposed by the developer for the Pan and Fork. And I think that we will want to discuss that as council, how and if we need to proceed. It also gets to the point that I had raised going way back when I had suggested conditioning our purchase of our parcel to the execution of the other contracts for the other parcels that were going to be developed on the Pan and Fork. And now if that has materially changed, as I understand it has, that should also influence our thinking as to our own investment. So I would just like to ask that we do put Pan and Fork on and request an update from either staff as to what they know, or from the developer whose plans may have changed.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess I would add to that too, to maybe get a status report from Mr. Blinsky or others as to the status of our final plat preparation, because I think it was our understanding that as soon as we had an executable plat, then we'd be able to proceed with the purchase agreement with TDC, and then start to make improvements on our park parcel. So all that is, everything's connected to everything else on that project. So I would add that to the list of updates. So maybe it's an agenda item for when we can get people organized, perhaps our next one. So Brian, maybe we can contact him and see if he's able to come and talk to us.
Thank you very much.
Sure. And I think what I might recommend is Jeff can speak to some of those legal questions with regard to the land uses and what we did and didn't agree to in that process.
Yeah, that'd be, of course, good. All right, thank you. The only thing I was going to add was that thank council for our good, if brief, encounter with P&Z last week. I think that set us in a good direction of kind of understanding each other a little bit better. I think there are some specific follow-ups that we can undertake when we meet next week. We're going to meet next Tuesday to start putting some meat on the bones of the strategic plan in terms of specific project priorities. So I look forward to that. That's Tuesday. Remind us of the time again, Ryan.
So it should be Tuesday, and we had it from 9 to noon.
Okay. Hopefully everybody's got that time available. It's going to be an important meeting. So, okay. Well, thank you on that.
Hey, Bill, just a quick question on the strategy session next week. Are we going to engage our commissions or committees in any substantive way in this discussion? Will we have the benefit of their expert advice? And do we reckon that we might, again, extend an invitation to the community to provide any kind of input as well into the strategic process?
Well, I think so far we've been having the committees come into the meetings to present to you all, and so we're using that information, the direction that council's provided after each of those sessions, and that's finding its way into a draft work plan. So no, there wasn't an intent to invite all of them, and then just for the public, I think this is a council session is what the intent, and there's really not a great way to have the public present physically, but, you know, I think to have council sit down and establish the goals for the town as the appropriate measure with a work plan like this. If you guys want to do something different, probably have to hand it out and get public input later, but we're pushing up against time to get our budget turned around to you as well, so.
Barry?
I look at this as that's why we did all of the discussions with the groups beforehand. You know, this is town council. We were elected by the people to do this. And so, you know, thinking about trying to have all the boards involved in this, and they already did. But to my knowledge, for my input, I feel the boards have been there. And for the public, the public has the chance to comment everywhere on the election and who they've elected to this council. And I think it's time for us to sit down and I think a lot of people have been asking for it. And we set the strategic plan and the work plan, and we put that in the budget going forward.
It's not so much gaining, again, committee input to a work plan, because you're right, they have done that. It's actually broader committee input into the strategic thinking and the conceptual design of what our strategy actually is. The committees didn't really participate in that in any substantive way 2 years ago, and to the best of my knowledge, we really haven't even circulated it to them, although we presume that they've read it. So it's really looking to enhance and strengthen the existing strategy and to better develop some of the elements, notably the environment objective, which is probably the least well developed of the three. But if you don't see that we can include the committees or the community in that, then I stand down.
Well, an opportunity to work with that, and that's kind of been the queue up to this point, is kind of getting ready for that 2021 work plan. So that's been on their mind as they're working through that. Just as enough FYI.
I think it's hard enough to accomplish what we need to accomplish just as a council without having the extra, let's call it, busyness of everybody else trying to interject. We've got a lot of work to do just as a council, and we need to do that as a council. As Gary said, we were elected to do this. We need to get a focus. We need to come through on it. As far as committees being involved in the strategic plan, it's patently false to say that they weren't. I was on post committee. We were given comment on it. We were allowed to comment on it. It was there.
Post may have been an exception.
Let's get through the next strategic planning session, and I think if we are formulating ideas that we would like more sort of input on, we can certainly volley these things back to relevant committees or planning commission or whoever we think we would like comment on. But I'm kind of with Gary.
Bill, they're gonna implement this. I mean, the reality is we're not implementing this ourselves. The committees are going to implement the strategic plan, and this was based off of our work on the master plan. Is the work that we've been doing over the last 2 years, but also 4 years and 5 years. And so I look at this as, let's see what our council feels is the strategic plan moving forward, and they will implement it, and they will put their input, and they'll put their input if we need to change it. And as they move forward, the public will do too.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Okay, so we will address this again next Tuesday, but yeah, I guess it would be my hope that we get to specific ideas and start getting priorities on a board and start understanding budget implications and start delivering on some of the project work we've been talking about for years in Basalt. So I see it as a pivotal time. Elise?
Just one quick logistics thing. Since the consent agenda covered the Core Act letter, Ryan, are you going to reach out to Anna at Mountain Pact and let her know that we agreed to come on board with that? 'Cause
Yeah.
I think the deadline is tomorrow.
Yep, I'll do that tomorrow morning. I told her that I'd let her know we had our council meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Good deal. The last thing I will bring up is our little coffee meetings. Was a good suggestion, and I think we can do this pretty informally. I think the proposal, Ryan's thought is that we notice these meetings in case we have more than 2 counselors show up. We don't want to be in violation. Ryan, what are your thoughts about this? How do we, basically stay clear of Colorado Open Meetings Law and yet, have a chance to get together and talk from time to time?
Yeah, so just sort of taking cues from what was discussed last week, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me. If we went ahead and noticed a coffee with the council, and we could rotate the location as was suggested, and just make it a meeting where all council could show up if they wanted. So you have that flexibility, because part of it was for you all to be able to get together and chit chat, and then also engage with the public. So it kind of gives you both of those opportunities. And the open meetings law, then you're compliant with it. Jeff might give some input when we talked about it, just with regard to, kind of what's in bounds and what's out of bounds with that. And the thought, sort of, one of the other options that we talked about is, well, maybe you could schedule 2 people or some number of council members. I think that gets a little tricky, just if people are, busy or out of town, and then, you got to go try to find somebody else that might be available. This just allows council to come when it works for them, and then it's pretty easy to notice and get it out there.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, just one follow-up on that. As informal as we want it to be, of course, there'll need to be, leave it to the lawyers to make sure that there are rules, but I think it'd be helpful for everyone to have a set of ground rules, and those being things like basic open meeting law provisions, and no decisions are going to be made at this meeting. It's these coffee meetings are primarily for the purpose, I think, of the public to engage council on ideas that they have. No matters that would be subject to a quasi-judicial process should be discussed, and other things along those lines. So I can work with Ryan on coming up with a set of ground rules so both council and the public are aware of what the purpose of these meetings are and what could be accomplished in them.
Great. So simple as this. I mean, if you're available and want to have coffee, can we just email? Are we running afoul if we, basically just post that we're going to be at CC's Cafe at 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning? If anybody wants to join me, come on down. I mean, is that fair, or is it going to require more structure than that?
We'll probably have to post it at our normal posting locations on the web in the front door if it's to be a meeting, which would be if you're greater than 3. Greater than 2.
Well, I guess we can do it. We just have to provide notice and get it out in time. So how much time do we need? I mean, if next Tuesday, we were going to do this on off Tuesdays. This next off Tuesday is a work session on the strategic plan, so we're kind of knocked out. Unless somebody wants to meet at 8 o'clock. I know Lease likes to meet at 8 o'clock.
Well, actually, this coming Tuesday would probably be good for me anyway. If we're going to be in our strategic work session from 9 to 12, then I'm not going to come into work from 8 to 9, so I would do it.
Yeah.
We'll need 24 hours notice ahead of time.
Okay. Well, I think we can just contact one another. I know I've been trying to connect with Ryan Slack, so I'll just connect with Ryan, see if we can do coffee. We'll just rotate around and, just put effort in getting together and talking to one another. We get pretty informal. Okay. All right, well, that's it for Mayor and Council reports. Thank you for that. We are now turned to Manager's report. Brian Mahoney.
Yeah, so just a couple of things. We did get on a note, a reminder from Picken County this morning, and I think the other counties are following suit, but we've, even though it looks wet and cool outside, they were planning to stay in stage 2 fire restriction. And so want to just make sure everybody's aware of that. Chief Knott also did want to remind the public that we're coming into fall, and that is bear season, where they're coming to look for food and just to make sure that on your trash day, please do not put out your trash before 7 a.m. That's a big attractant for them, but also just to make sure to tell the community, great job so far this year. We really have not had the incidences that you see in other places around the state, and that's really because of the good habits that have been developed. So I want to make sure we're giving everybody kudos on that. And we did get maybe one email about the gun range or shooting range, which was open last Thursday. CPW, in consultation with the sheriff in Eagle County and the fire chief, they opened it in advance of hunting season, knowing that people will sight in their rifles whatever it takes, and so they wanted to provide that spot in a more controlled environment, and so that was the reasoning there. There had been some confusion by folks that we heard from, just that they thought it stayed closed in stage 2 fire restrictions, and that wasn't necessarily the case. They just kind of assess it as they go, and of course we're great to close it leading up until hunting season, but they knew kind of what the pressure was going to look like. So that's the information that we got back. That's all I have for you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Ryan, can I ask, how was the results of the lead testing communicated to the public?
So I think the CPW had met with had been interviewed in the newspaper, as it's their study that they were required to do, and so that went out. I guess midweek last week in a newspaper article, and then according to Matt Yamashita, their PIO had prepared that public announcement for folks. So it was good news. They did not find contamination that had left the site, and they'd also done some mitigation since that flood to prevent a future flood from carrying water across the site in the same fashion that it did. So that was also a requirement of CDPHE as they move through this process.
Great, thank you.
Okay, is that it, Ryan?
That's it.
Thank you. Next item up are presentations. Our first is we're going to hear, is Regina on? She is. So we have Regina O'Brien, our Eagle County clerk, and Janice Caudill is on as well. So these excellent people are going to tell us what's it looking like for our election season, and exciting time. So you guys are really in the spotlight. So Regina, you want to go first, or do you guys have a batting order here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for allowing us to come in. I know both Janice and I wanted to just remind voters that this stage in the election cycle. We're about 56 days away. And the most important thing that voters can do today is to check their voter registration at govotecolorado.gov. And it takes 2 minutes. And the most important thing you want to look at, well, all important things in there, but your residential address is critical. That determines the ballot type that we send you, so what you're legally allowed to vote on. And then your mailing address. By law, ballots are not forwardable. So it's really critical that that mailing address is correct. If you happen to be at a second home, or if you're a college student that is away from home, or maybe you're helping family who's been displaced due to COVID, and that you want to leave your mailing address in there, but you would like your ballot mailed to an alternative address, there is a field in your voter registration record where it says mail my ballot to, and you can enter in that ballot mailing address. And that is where we will mail your ballot. And that can be in a different state. If, like I said, if you've got a college student who's away, it's not a problem. The one thing to note is that that ballot mailing address will stay in your voter registration record until you, the voter, removes it. So we'll continue to send ballots there until you remove it. Any additional points on that, Janice, that you'd like to bring up?
I think that the community should know that right now, within the next 2 weeks, the most important thing is to update your record, exactly what Regina was reviewing. And then I'll let you take the lead, and I'll comment on your next communications.
Great. Yep. And it might seem like it's only September 8th. Why is it important? Well, we mail ballots out on October 9th, Friday, October 9th, which means from an operational standpoint, we are pulling voter lists prior to that. So that's why it might seem a little ways away, but it's great if we have those updated addresses now. We can send ballots out in the mail until Monday, October 26th. So we do have time, but if you can check your registration today, that's great. The Colorado model of elections allows us to have vote centers as well, which we will open starting October 19th. We'll have those open for over 2 weeks prior to Election Day, where voters can register to vote or pick up a ballot. But we are still in the time of COVID, and we're trying to keep everybody healthy, including our election judges and voters. So if we encourage voters to get that ballot in the mail, and then we'll have our 24-hour drop boxes open, and we have one right there, which is awesome, right behind your town building. And voters don't have to put it in the mail. They can just drop it in a drop box. And one thing I do like to point out is there are, I think, over close to 400 now drop boxes across the state of Colorado. And as long as you drop it in a county-controlled drop box by 7 p.m. on election night, then the counties work together to get other counties those ballots. So, for example, a student who's in Boulder has their Eagle County or Pitkin County ballot mailed to Boulder. They can vote that ballot, sign the back of their ballot, and drop it in a Boulder County controlled drop box. Boulder County will get it to Eagle or Pitkin, and we do the same for all other counties. So, there's all kinds of talk about the Postal Service. We're in close contact with our local and state postmasters and representatives. We have confidence that everything is going to run fine, just like it has for the past 7 years. But that drop box option is really, really great. And any Colorado drop box, and as long as it's there by 7 p.m. on election night. Janice, I'll let you take it out from here.
I want to drive home a couple of things. And number one, make sure your address is correct, that we send your ballot to where you want. You've got the next 2 weeks before we pull data. Number two is look for your ballot in the mail the week of October 12th. We're dropping those in the mail on Friday the 9th, so look for it the next week, October 12th. And to reiterate, use the 24/7 surveillance drop box. Use any in the state. All clerks will assure the ballot gets to the correct place. What I ask you as leaders, and Regina touched upon this, as leaders, we would ask for your help to encourage our community to vote a mail ballot versus going to the polls, because we are in a pandemic and working through that. So I would ask the community to do their part, vote by mail. We've got this. We've been doing this for 12 elections, 7 years. We know our systems. We work with USPS. We partner with them for several years. We've got this, Colorado, and it will be correct. And it's simple. Look for your ballot, vote it, and return it to the surveillance box. Thank you.
Great.
What was the website again? I'm sorry, Go Vote?
Yep, it's Go Vote Colorado, all together, govotecolorado.gov.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions, comments, maybe not comments, questions of our clerks? Sounds well organized, guys. Gary, did you have your hand up? Or are you adjusting your video controls there?
I had one.
No, I was just going to say I don't necessarily have a question. I just have, how is this information being distributed now during our lovely COVID time? Because I just know the reality is Colorado, we're pretty dialed into the mail-in voting piece. But I think a lot of people are getting bombarded with, emails and calls from folks about making sure that you're all set up to vote and that you vote by mail. So I just was wondering what you guys are doing for the outreach piece.
I'll go. The Secretary of State has campaign, education outreach campaign. In Pickens County, we've always placed ads as well as radio ads. I would encourage the community to go to the clerk or recorder site, because we are the trusted election officials and we do have the correct information. I also would encourage people is get your mail ballot, vote it, return it early, and get off those election years. It's just a good idea, and your vote will be included in the first returns shortly after 7-hour election night. Regina, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yep, and similar, we've been doing radio spots, and we just sent out a postcard as well to all households in Eagle County that describes when the mail ballots are supposed to come, and also on the back of it lists all the dates and times and locations that our vote centers and our 24-hour drop boxes are open. We have a lot of information on our website. We're going to be running ads in local papers as well as we get closer to those vote center dates, encouraging folks not to wait until Election Day if they haven't registered to vote or they haven't received their ballot. We open October 19th, and there's no need to wait until Election Day to pick up your ballot. And all of those messages are going to be updated as we get to different points in the election cycle. I did just write a piece that kind of explains very high level the steps that what's the life of a mail ballot, and that's going to be running. Hopefully, we submitted it to the Aspen Times for it to run there, so I hope that gets out as well. Kind of just, like I said, explaining the process that your mail ballot goes to. And if I'm always open to any suggestions, if there is a certain radio or media outlet that really is a great method of communication that we're currently not hitting, we're very open to doing that as well.
Any other questions, guys? Thank you very much. And Janice, appreciate the help and the update. That's great info.
Thank you for your time.
I think we're back in a month also, so we'll do more details on service centers at that time. Thank you.
News. That's great. Our next item of business is to get an update from Laurie Miller on the youth zone. So, Laurie, are you on?
I am here, yes. And hello, everybody. I also brought with me Charles Wolfe, and she is our development director. So first of all, just a huge thank you to you for your support, not only with our capital campaign. We've been in our building a year now. We would love to show it to you, so anytime you want to come walk through, we're very proud of the space, and thank you for giving us that ability to have a home of our own. and also, of course, for your annual contribution and investment in the work that we do with our Basalt kiddos. So we're here tonight, Carol and I. Carol will give some budgeting updates, but just to give you an update about what our kids have been up to the past year. So please feel free to ask any questions that you might have. I did send to you an evaluation report, and I hope that it's not super long, but it definitely has some great highlights in it, and I want to bring those to your attention. Over the past year, we've worked with just about a little under 30 kids, about 25 kids, 24 to be exact. And a lot of those kids in the Basalt area are referred to us directly through the school resource officers and law enforcement. And I don't know if Chief Scott is still on or not, but that's a great thing. And the reason it's so positive is that our kids can, well, number one, it costs taxpayers much less money instead of having kids go through the juvenile justice system and process, and it's better for the kids. The kids do better when they don't have to have an arrest that goes with it. Not saying that there's not times, definitely, when a ticket is exactly what some of those kids need. So anyway, that's the number of kids that we've had, and really had great success with the kids that have been referred to us. And that's really what the evaluation report speaks to, is when our kids come to us, and I can tell you that over the last 10 years, there's been an increase in the state of Colorado of kids using substances, that includes all of them, by 25%. Our local youth here have also seen that same increase over the years. So our evaluation, we hire an independent evaluator who really looks at why kids are coming to us, how kids do when they're with us and are offered our services. And what the evaluation will show is that over the last 3 years, so our evaluation really looks at a 3-year chunk. Over the last 3 years, we have had higher needs kids, higher risk kids, more complex families are coming to us. And yet, our success rate with kids, in particular with substances, has been better than any other past evaluation. And that I'm very, very proud because our staff are, I would say, experts in this field. If you want your kids in your communities to decrease their substance use, and that includes vaping, it includes tobacco, Houston is the place for them to be. That's a huge success. And there was definitely some years in there that we weren't as successful. And so we intentionally changed some of our training with our staff and how we looked at some of our evidence-based. We like to do evidence-based practices and also programs. And we shifted some things, and that was 6 years ago. And in that time frame, we've done a good job, I would say. And that's not me. I'm sitting behind the computer. It's all the people, all of our counselors that are working extra hard with our young people. Let's see. I also would like to, I don't know if any of you have been through our building in Glenwood Springs, and you know we do have a satellite office in Aspen and also one at the 3rd Street Center in Carbondale. Since COVID hit and the Aspen schools were closed, that's where our Aspen office has been. So we haven't been seeing kids in Aspen. We've been meeting them at different places. And so our Basalt kids have a chance to go to Carbondale, to our Carbondale office, or obviously to our Glenwood Springs office. So we have a whole basement. We have 9,000 square feet. We finished off 4,500 square feet, the top floor that youth zone and our youth advocates and case managers are taking. And then we have another 4,000 plus square feet downstairs. And so we're in collaboration right now with a group, and you probably are familiar with them. It's called BATT, B-A-T-T, Battlement to the Bells Anti-Trafficking Task Force. And Chief Nutt, I don't know if you're familiar with them, probably. And so they are really very active, and I can say that we do have several clients right now that are actively being trafficked, sex trafficked, young girls, 15 and 16 years old. So it's a concern of ours for sure. And they are looking at housing their work in our basement, which is very exciting. And it will be for homeless youth, any youth that are really disengaged from their families or their communities and need a safe space to land. So hopefully we'll have our basement filled with a great program here within the next, I would say, 18 months to a year maybe. Okay, so, the other thing on the evaluation that I wanted to highlight is Basalt kids have, of any of the other kids, so for those of you who don't know, we work from Aspen to Parachute and also do some work up in Rio Blanco counties. So Basalt kids have a higher prevalence of substance use than other communities. They looked at Snowmass, Basalt, and Aspen as all being pretty high level. The city of Aspen residents for youth have the highest rate of substance use. But the good news is that Basalt kids also have a high level of optimism and problem solving. So they're very hopeful about their future. And what we know to be true is that kids who believe that they have a future, a positive future out there, usually can kick it into gear and get themselves back on the right track. So that's a very, very good thing. All right, let's go ahead, Carol. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hello, and thank you for having us this evening. My name is Carol Wolfe, as Laurie said. I am the new development director at Youth Zone. Took over for Robin Toland, who retired March 1st. It's been quite the journey for me so far, but a good journey. But we, again, thank you for your continued support of Youth Zone. But you guys are really the force behind our work. Not only do we appreciate your support with the capital campaign, but your continuing support with our general operating funds as well. We couldn't do it without you. And your trust in Youth Zone and its management really means as much to us as the monetary contribution. So again, both are accepted and received with great gratitude. And just a little quick infomercial. We are having our annual fundraiser coming up in just a couple weeks. Yikes. It's going to be a youth film fest. We have 5 kiddos that have presented films, 3 to 5 minute film clips of what it's been like for them in this upside down world we're all living in. We have, again, 5 of them, 5 different views. They're kids from really all over the area, and even one from Massachusetts. So we're excited about that. We'll be sure and send you guys an invitation and hope that you join us for that. But again, thank you for your time tonight and your continued support. Appreciate it. And it's nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
I would like to add just real quickly that we also I'm interested, and I don't know, I know I've talked to Chief Knott, and maybe several of you about the tobacco tax revenue stream, and would like to have some further conversation in regards to what youth zone we would need to do in order to maybe access some of that funding. As you know, and I'm sure you're experiencing yourself, funding shortages, and we are faced with a year of the same. We've cut our budget by 20%, and we're on a hiring freeze. And one of my concerns is that our mental health for our youth is increasing. We have a lot of anxiety and depression with our kids right now, and to have funding go down at this point is a little nerve-wracking. So please keep us in mind and let me know what I need to do to potentially access some of the funding with the new increase in tobacco, because we do that work. I mean, we would be definitely directly impacting the kids that are using tobacco.
Yeah, well, that's just a footnote to that, Laurie. We have been, using our tobacco tax revenue, I think, pretty wisely, and really focused on, we've made a big, for us, a pretty substantial contribution to the Hope Center this last year. And I don't know if, Ryan, you want to maybe comment on the scope of that. And, I think, obviously the youth center is really an important entity as well. So we're going to be taking it up again. And, our focus has been to recycle those revenues into mental health care. So, Ryan?
Yeah, I think you said it well, Mayor. We this year focused our efforts throughout COVID with the Hope Center, who were able to, have their staff reach out and have interactions with families and children as we kind of move through the beginning stages in particular of COVID-19. And we're currently at the staff level working with the school district as they work to shore up their mental health provision in the schools as well. And, that also includes a focus on substance abuse and addiction. And so, I think the recommendation for us is, or from us to council, is to work on those items. We know the efficacy of our work with the Hope Center, and then take a look at what other agencies around that support Basalt specifically could benefit from that. And there may be a smaller grant program for places like Youth Zone and others who are looking for additional support.
Great, thank you.
Well, Laurie, thank you very much for the update. This is, and we really appreciate your efforts. You guys are providing really critical services right now, and I know the whole community is grateful. So we'll stay in touch with you, and by all means, stay in touch with us about our grant cycle for next year.
Okay. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Takes us to our next item, which is an update on the Basalt Buck stimulus and coronavirus relief funding. So Ryan and Christy were gonna give us an update.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and talk through the council packet information and a little bit more updates as Ryan and I had found out some more updated information on the Basalt Bucks. So the first thing to know about the coronavirus relief funding is it really comes in two phases or points. One is from $222,000 from Eagle County, and another is $59,914 from Pickens. So the total that we're going to be receiving this year is about $282,000 of that fund. And this is where the Basalt Bucks was paid through. And so this was a snapshot as of the date that we had to send the council packet. We've got updated information on this. As of today, we've got 1,610 Basalt Bucks that have been returned, and that return rate is about 45%. So it's a little better than here. And then the total Basalt Bucks to businesses was 32,200, with about 79,000 receipts from those sales. So we were getting about 2.5 times for every dollar that was spent on a Basalt Buck. There was 2.5 times that for the receipt of the sale. So that's pretty good as far as bang for your buck, no pun intended. Little accounting humor. So the total estimated cost for the Basalt Buck program at this time was $37,000. With these additional bucks that had been receipted in, it'd be closer to $38,000, with a savings of $12,000 on that. So let's see here. I'm just gonna go right over to our budget here and estimated spending. So just so you kind of understand the layout as we're going through this. So this is all the estimated coronavirus relief funding right in these first 3 columns here. And then I show you actual costs here so you understand what council's approved and what's already been completed and what we still need to do and what we're looking at discussing for tonight with the amount remaining over to the right, okay? So last time we talked to council, we had the conversation about the Aspen Hope Center, Food Bank of the Rockies, and Aspen Community Foundation, these top 3 here. And those have subsequently been paid, and that is all taken care of. So that takes care of the Pickens County portion of the grant, which was $59,914, which has already been requested through Pickens County. Okay. So then you have your Basalt Bucks actual or estimated actual, which is now $38,000, but these numbers, you know, they do change a little bit. We had painting the barriers for the restaurants, about $10,900. And cleaning supplies, signs, public health, we've spent so far about $10,500. We anticipate to spend another $8,000 through the end of the year for those things, because we are using PPE and those kind of items to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe and the community safe. We spent $1,540 in the concrete barriers. Communication support is really the use of consultants for assisting with information that's being sent to the public in relation to COVID-19, so that we're getting the information out on various parts of this this situation as it unfolds. And then the business COVID needs survey. So this $7,500 that we have here, actually that would incorporate about $3,000 for the survey itself, and then just $4,500 to implement whatever is needed for that. Plus, then there's this additional $50,000 here in unknown community business support that, based upon the results of the survey, that we would target to what businesses perceive as the most important things to help them with restructuring their businesses. So we had a lot of conversation internally. We also talked to Basalt Chamber about how to handle this, what we wanted to do to help businesses. There's a lot of ways to look at this, and we believe that the best way to look at this is to talk to the businesses about how they're struggling and what kinds of support would be best useful for them right now as they move into winter, and as now here it's snowing. And so you can't be outside as much with restaurants, for example. And so we want to put together that survey that can target that remaining money to assist them the best way possible. And then the CARES Act, FMLA COVID, that is the required time off for any time that our employees have had for COVID daycare related issues or COVID illnesses. And then rental assistance, we just talked about that, last council meeting with Bach, that recommendation. And then there's a couple of new recommendations here, with Food Bank of the Rockies for $15,000. I'll have Ryan, jump in here in a second. Mid-Valley Clinic, for COVID assistance for testing for those that don't have insurance for $10,000. And then, Basalt Chamber COVID, business, support. And what that Basalt Chamber 18,000 is during the time that we had some challenging times with revenues, especially with lodging tax down and those kind of things, the chamber has also had to look at how to support its businesses in this critical time to make sure that they're having the resources they need to continue as a going concern. And so the town is partnering with them during this challenging time to make sure that those services are still taken care of as revenues are an issue. So. All right.
The only thing that I would really add to that is, from the Food Bank of the Rockies, the food pickup has been moved down to the county building at Crown Mountain Park or near Crown Mountain Park. I was in touch with their executive director, and we gave $10,000 at the outset. And this recommendation here, they're still serving last week I think they did close to 300 meals. And so they anticipate the demand still being rather high for that use. And I know some other organizations lift up, namely they were doing some distribution, but not in Basalt. They're opening their pantry in Aspen, and then I believe they do something down in Carbondale as well. So Food Bank of the Rockies is really our resource here to help residents. And then the Mid-Valley Clinic, Lisa Robiano is part of that. They have a nonprofit that they've started. A lot of the work that they do is done gratis. They're helping and volunteering at the Mirabus, where they're doing or administering COVID tests. They're doing that also at their office and have been part of that pretty heavily since the outset. And so in discussions with her after we had given some money the last time, I thought that we would be coming back to council and indicated that after our discussions, I thought it was a worthy cause to recommend to council. And one more thing with the community survey or the business support survey, I think we would be able to turn that around pretty quickly. We know that, the businesses are really starting to think about the coming winter and those issues. And, we want to be able to be there for them and respond in the same way we did at the outset and with the expansion of eating areas and such. And so we would turn that around and bring that back to council pretty quickly here. And Christy, is it possible, do you suppose that by the next council meeting we might be able to get some of that information back?
Yeah, perhaps. The only thing is we may need a little grace as far as if we don't get it into the packet on time.
Fair enough.
It'll be a pretty tight turnaround, but we can sure try.
Yeah. I think if it doesn't make the packet, you could certainly present it at the meeting without, advance circulation. That's not going to be a problem.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We'll definitely try to get it in the packet, but just in case that we just want to make sure that feedback's solid and tight before we give it to council. So we may need a little bit of grace on that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so a lot to digest there. You want to take some comment from council here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Council, what do you guys think?
Bill?
Yeah, Elise, go ahead.
So it's my understanding that the eviction moratorium has been extended through the end of the year. Does anybody have confirmation on that? And if so, how will that affect the box fund? Because I think that was primarily what they were requesting.
You know, what I would say to that, I don't have an answer to whether it's been extended or not. And I think that there's probably folks with needs regardless of the moratorium. And so we could go back to Bach and you know, just ask on the timeliness of that. The point I think you're getting to is we know we have to spend this money by the end of the year. And so we'd want to make sure it goes to, you know, the most impactful uses that we can. You know, we can run that by them and then we can get a more solid answer for you on whether that's been extended.
Okay, great.
Well, and I'm not worried about it. I heard it was extended, that you can't be evicted. The thing is, if you don't pay, you might still be, you know, due, you know, you still have to pay for the rent at some time. And you also are not protected from any fees or late fees or anything else. So I think this is critical that we help people pay their rent on time. So there's not, when this finally goes away, the moratorium doesn't all of a sudden see people who owe 3 to 5 months of rent and then get evicted then, or owe fees on top of it. I think that's the biggest concern, is that you won't get kicked out of your house, but you're still going to owe that money at some time. So that was my understanding of all of this, and that's why I'm hoping that we can help people pay. So, you know, first of all, that those people don't get evicted 3 or 4 months or owe more. And it also, you know, it does help our landlords too. Not all of our landlords are big, huge, you know, money-hungry people. They could be potentially relying on this for paying their mortgages and stuff. So anyway, just my 2 cents on that.
Those are good points, Gary. And to that end, I think my comment to Bach previously was that I was hoping to see what that process was going to look like. And actually, I think Gary makes a really good point that I wonder if that should be one of the criteria that they consider as, you know, the landlord themselves. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I think the problem is deferments are not the same as like forgiveness.
Yeah, and just as an update on that, Bach did have a conversation at their meeting this past week. There is the extension on the moratorium on evictions until the end of the year, but their comments were kind of along the same line as Gary's, related to helping people pay along so that they don't owe huge amounts at the end of the eviction moratorium period. Bach did put an information item in your packet. They did meet, and they're working on criteria and kind of a framework, and they hope to bring that back to the council probably at the next meeting.
Cool.
Well, one observation would be relative to basalt ducts and stimulus, is that, you know, I think we will know a lot more about what the outlook is going to be for our winter economy in coming weeks with the announcement on the chamber pass, and when we see what Aspen Skiing Company's plan is for operation of this winter season. You know, in this last go around, we favored distributing money locally to support our town residents and neighbors and friends with frankly a relatively small distribution. And I think it may be wise to revisit the stimulus program for this winter if we are going to have a robust tourist season. You know, it may be wise to revisit the Basalt Bucks program where you can buy, you know, the original idea was, you know, buy $100 of Basalt Bucks for $75 and not make it restricted to Basalt residents. our concern was that we were attracting lots of folks to the community when concerns were at the paramount for for coronavirus. So, I think we'll just have to see what the outlook looks like. Our coronavirus meters are in the comfortable zone in Pitkin County and in Eagle County and the Roaring Fork Valley. There's some countervailing data about kids enrolling in school and spiking positive tests. So, I think we'll know a lot more in coming weeks about the plan for the winter economy, and then we can make a wiser judgment about how to use our stimulus dollars over the winter months. But, personally, I'm really quite open to expanding the Basalt Bucks program and doing whatever we can to help our local businesses. So,
I'm glad that the chamber is doing that business survey. I think that's going to be really critical. I can tell you anecdotally that I've talked to several restaurant owners, and they've said the number one thing they could use is rental assistance. So.
Well, and that brings up a good point, Elise, is, how does, we were talking, I don't know if we were talking about business rental assistance. So I think that's a really good point to bring up. As we continue this stimulus talk, we need to bring that up. That's a huge point that we need to look at.
Great. All right, guys, thank you. David?
Quick question. Do we have any updates on whether we think that or what the demand is for rental assistance at this point? I know we talked about it a couple of weeks ago in the context of whether 15,000 was the right number or there should be a bigger ask. Do we have any updates on that?
James, do you have a thought about that?
Yeah, staff reached out to the different affordable housing projects that we have in town in terms of trying to figure out kind of what the demand was. We heard that there in the Roaring Fork apartments are a couple of evictions and then a couple of other tenants that are kind of on the edge of making it. We heard from Willett 7 that there were a couple tenants on payment plans and were having some struggles. And then we also reached out to Pitkin County Health and Human Services that was doing the rental assistance for Pitkin County. At the end of July, they indicated that they still had in the realm of, let's see, what was it, 20 families that were looking for rental assistance from the county in the Basalt area. So that's kind of what we heard at this point.
And that's just within our managed affordable housing. That does not reach into, people that are out in basically free market circumstance.
Well, the Pitkin County number of 20 families at the end of July was just basically all of Basalt, so that wasn't just affordable housing.
Okay, good. All right, well, that's good. That's good to know. All right, any more discussion, questions on Basalt Bucks? We're going to be talking about this some more, obviously.
Can I make
Yeah.
just one comment about the food banks for the Rockies? Obviously, this is a fantastic organization, but I will say that I'm not sure what's going on, but Roaring Fork Apartments has been getting deliveries of many, many, many boxes of food that are going unused. So I don't know if there's a way we could communicate back to Roaring Fork.
I'm sorry, they're going unused?
Yes, they're being a citizen is, probably thinking very conscientiously that they are helping, but they're delivering boxes and boxes of food to the apartment building, and we don't need it. It's literally it's going bad.
Wow.
So I don't know if there's a way that we can communicate back.
I thought all the food had to be picked up that day on Thursdays.
Well, and that's what I'm not sure what's exactly going on there, but I just wanted to, since I happen to know this, I just figured I would pass that along.
Yeah. but I'll follow up on that.
Yeah, we can, I'll follow up on that. And Elise, I think the source of that comes from Food Bank of the Rockies, you think? Is that what the label or something along those lines?
That's my understanding. Is there another organization that's distributing food? Oh, I guess the Lift Up, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so, okay, so in that case, I'm not 100% sure that it's Food Bank and not Lift Up.
Okay. And the ones that, you know, like the food distribution they were doing this summer, I know were not sort of in the delivery format. It was, you know, families would opt, you know, if they needed food, they'd, you know, wait in line and get a box of food. So hopefully there wasn't the same kind of waste that you're seeing. But yeah, I'll follow up on that and see what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, guys. So we will now turn to council actions. So I see Pat's been standing by patiently. Next item up is public hearing and second reading on ordinance number 17, series of 2020. This is an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, granting rezoning the P Public Zone District site plan review approval, a community housing mitigation waiver, and establishment of dimensional requirements in the P Public Zone District, including an off-street parking reduction for an expansion to St. Vincent's Church located at 240 Midland Avenue, Basalt, Colorado. James.
Mayor, I'm going to excuse myself now, and Ryan, you can just text me.
That sounds good.
Okay, this is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance on the application submitted by the Archdiocese of Denver as well as St. Vincent's Church to construct an expansion to St. Vincent's Church at 240 Midland Avenue. As was noted at the last meeting, the development review actions include a rezoning to the P Public Zone District as well as community housing review to waive the affordable housing mitigation requirements for church in the P Public Zone District, and then site plan review to establish the allowable dimensional requirements for the site in the P Public Zone District. As was discussed at the last meeting, the property subject to the application is St. Vincent's Church at 240 Midland Avenue. It's currently zoned C2 and contains an existing church of about 5,900 square feet and a small rectory house, which you can see a photo on your screen of the site. The proposal is to demolish the existing rectory house and then construct an addition of about 2,400 square foot onto the parish hall in the location of the existing rectory house. I'm trying to, there we go. Here is the existing rectory house. Here is the proposed expansion to the site. Here is Midland Avenue at the bottom of the screen. They're also proposing to move the current curb cut, which is in this location, to the western extent of the site so that they can provide the driveway back to the expansion of 4 parking spaces and a loading area at the back of the structure. The applicants have indicated that the proposal is to allow for them to move their religious education classes out of the basement and provide a more workable space for their current activities. At the last meeting, staff identified a series of discussion items that P&Z evaluated the application based on. Staff summarized at the last meeting that the Planning and Zoning Commission felt the proposal to be consistent with the master plan goals and neighborhood character. The Basalt Affordable Community Housing Committee, BAC, as well as the P&Z supported the affordable housing mitigation waiver for the church in the P Public Zone District. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission also supported the access and parking addition to the site as it was proposed. Also of note that was discussed at the last meeting, the applicants are proposing to maintain the significant tree on the western extent of the property that was of concern to their neighbor. as well as the spruce tree in the front of the structure that will be fenced off and inspected by staff prior to construction. The council approved the ordinance on first reading. The only change to the ordinance since first reading is that a condition was added to reinforce the privacy fence that the applicants indicated that they were okay with on the back property line. And that's been included in the draft ordinance. In total, the Planning and Zoning Commission and Bach supported the proposed actions with the conditions that are included in your draft ordinance. So this evening, staff would recommend taking applicant comment. We do have Pat McMahon here with us this evening. And then staff would suggest taking public comments because it is a public hearing and providing council discussion. Ultimately, staff would recommend approving the ordinance. Pat, do you have anything to add?
Not a lot, James. You summarized it very well. And the only thing that's changed since the first reading is that we have reached out to the neighbor, Stephanie Scavullo, who's our neighbor on that overlap area, and started the discussions on resolving that. We're both amenable to it. It seems like splitting it down the middle is going to be the likely choice. And so far we've made it to exchanging surveys, and then she left yesterday for a 10-day river trip. So we'll get back on that, but certainly we want to resolve that before we construct the fence. And James, I did note the little bit of a hammer in your ordinance about the thing. If we don't resolve it, it's the most restrictive for the church. So that's going to make us pretty easy to deal with.
Thank you.
Otherwise, nothing has changed since first reading.
The only question I had is, did we get the plot line cleaned up?
No, that's what we're working on. So I've talked to Stephanie. She sent us her survey, which was dated early 90s. We sent us our survey, which is this year, but it shows the overlap. And we kind of verbally agreed that splitting it down the middle makes the most sense. And I don't know if you saw James's ordinance language, but what is being approved tonight is that if we don't get it cleaned up, the fence goes on the most restrictive line for the church. So it's that kind of made me smile a little bit, and it's a good motivator for us to, cross those T's and dot those I's.
Nice job, James.
So staff would suggest taking public comment.
Okay.
And just a reminder to email planning@basalt.net or text 970-987-7010 with your name and your phone number to talk. And we were only going to put the clock on for 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Okay. Susan, did you get any advance notice of public that wanted to comment?
No, so I just suggest that you open up the public hearing so I can start the clock.
Okay. Let me do that. I will note that we will open the public hearing at 7:32 p.m.
Okay, I have the clock going.
Okay.
But the amended condition was in the packet, so I think if anybody had any issues, they would have emailed us before the meeting. But just to be safe, we're going to wait a little bit longer.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, we're done, and I didn't get any emails, and I'm assuming, Ryan, that you didn't get any texts. So I think we're good.
All right, well, thank you very much. I will then, having no public comment, I will close the public hearing at 7:34 p.m. let the record show. And so I would open this up for any questions of council, comments of the applicant or staff. All right, hearing none, I'd be open to a motion.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 17, 2020 on second reading.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, moved by Glenn Drummond, and seconded, I think, was Bill Infante. I could tell by his accent that was Bill, I think.
That is correct.
Very good. So, clerk, if you would not mind, Ms. Clerk, read the full council, please.
I'd be happy to. Let's begin. Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you, Gary. Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you, Elise. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Bill Infante.
Yes.
And Glenn Drummond, excuse me.
Yes.
Thank you, Glenn. David has recused himself. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Pat, congratulations.
Thanks, everybody. Really, really appreciate it. We'll get going.
Yeah, best of luck with the project, and make sure Padre knows we all voted in favor, so.
He's on a silent retreat right now, but I'll let him know soon.
We may all need help here in the future, so.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This takes us to item number 7B on our agenda. It's a public hearing for the recreational marijuana license renewal. Pam, please.
Yes, so this is with Mr. Rob Holmes, and I believe Rob is online with us, or was. There he is.
Hi, everybody.
Who are you holding?
This is our latest edition, Huck Holmes.
That's shameless to bring the child to a public hearing.
Thanks for being here,
I got
Rob.
4 more of them I could grab.
So as noted in the packet, this is a public hearing for an application for renewal of a retail/recreational marijuana license for RFSCB LLC, doing business as Roots RX, located at 165 Southside Drive. As noted also in the memo, the police report, Chief Knott has conducted an internal records check and has found no criminal complaints or criminal investigations by his department. And he's also confirmed the security measures at the business remain in compliance with town code. The only concern is that there are some teardrop banners on the premises that are not in conformance with the town's temporary sign policy, and the planning department does recommend that they be removed within 30 days of renewal of the license. Other than that, none of the departments had any concerns. They are current on their sales tax, they've renewed their business license, and they are in compliance with the 2015 International Fire Code. Staff would recommend, after a public hearing, renewal, and if any comments are raised at the public hearing, council can certainly continue the public hearing to the next meeting.
Comments or questions for council or Pam, the applicant? Do we want to open this for public comment?
It is a public hearing. I don't know if Rob has anything to add to that presentation.
Nothing to add other than we'll comply with the request to remove the teardrop sign.
Thank you.
The countdown of the comment.
So I just start.
We'll open to the public hearing.
Yeah, I'll let me get this. Fine. I'll open the public hearing at 7:39 p.m.
Just a reminder to email planning@basalt.net or text 970-987-7010 with your name and your phone number, and we'll give you a call. And just a note that we didn't receive any comments before the meeting that anybody, or during the meeting so far, that anybody wanted to speak.
Can we ask that maybe some of those numbers mute themselves? Maybe 618-6281 maybe could mute, please? I'm not sure where that noise was coming from. It sounded like that number, but thank you.
So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're good. Let me just double check that I didn't get any emails. So I didn't get any emails and we didn't receive any text, so I think we're good to go.
Thank you very much. So at this point, during no public comment, if there are any questions or comments from staff or for staff or the applicant, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the recreational marijuana license renewal for Roots.
Mayor, I move the town council approve the renewal of recreational marijuana license for Roots RX 165 Southside Drive, Basalt, Colorado, continuing on the applicant meeting the staff and agency recommendations and conditions as stated in the staff memo dated September 8th, 2020.
Second.
Is there a second?
Yeah, Lease.
Thank you very much. Been moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Glenn Drummond. Did we lose? Oh,
Glenn.
I'm sorry, Glenn.
Glenn, are you?
You seem to be muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you, David. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Bill Kane.
Yes.
Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Barry Tenenbaum.
Yes.
And Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Rob.
you.
Have a
Thanks,
good night.
guys. You too. Bye-bye.
This takes us to item number 7C on our agenda, public hearing, medical marijuana license renewal for Down Valley. HYH, doing business as Good People at 165 Midland Avenue. So, Pam, if you could fill us in.
Sure, you bet. As the memo noted, this is for renewal of a medical marijuana license for Down Valley HYH, DBA Good People, located at 175 Midland, medical being on the first floor, unit 110. I believe both applicants, Justin Strebe and Kale LaCrue, are both on our meeting this evening. Thank you for joining us. No concerns were reported by the police, by building. They are in compliance with the town's international fire code. The planning department, of course, notes that they need to continue compliance with their zoning requirements and section 16190 of the town code. The applicant is current on their local sales tax collections. They've paid fees for their license and business license renewals. Staff had no problem recommending the renewal, a motion for renewal of this license after a public hearing, excuse me, and if the applicants have any comments.
No comments.
No additional comments from our end. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. Susan, let's open the public hearing. Let the record show it is 7:43 p.m. and the phone is open for public comment.
Okay, and just a note, the email planning@basalt.net or text 987-7010 with your name and your phone number. And just to note that before the meeting or during the meeting, we so far have not received any requests to speak. And we have about 40 more seconds left on our timer. Okay, we're good, and I didn't receive any emails during that time, and we didn't receive any text, so I think we're good to go.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions of council for Pam or the applicant? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the medical marijuana license for Good People.
Mayor, I move the town council approve the renewal of medical marijuana license for Down Valley HYH DBA Good People located at 175 Midland Avenue, Unit 110, Basalt, Colorado, contingent upon the applicant meeting and continuing the conditions and recommendations stated in the staff memo dated September 8th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Glenn Drummond. So, Pam, please call the roll.
Thank you. Let's begin with David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To our next item. This is a public hearing, and for the retail recreational marijuana license renewal for Down Valley HYM, and this is DBA doing business as Good People. So Pam, fill us in on this one.
Again, same applicants, pretty much the same location. This is the unit upstairs at 175 Midland Avenue. Again, we've had no criminal complaints or investigations by the Basalt Police Department. Chief Nod has also confirmed the security measures at the business remain in compliance with town code. The building department has no problems or concerns regarding renewal. Fire department notes that they are in compliance with the town's international fire code. Planning department, again, also recommends that the applicant shall stay in compliance with the conditions of special review. And that should read for the medical marijuana center. Ordinance number 4 of 2019, and further recommends the applicant be required to comply with all representations set forth in the application and with the requirements of Town Code Section 16190, marijuana facilities and retail marijuana establishments. The applicant's current on their local sales tax collection. The applicant has paid fees for their medical marijuana, their retail marijuana license renewal and business license. Staff has no problems recommending a renewal of this marijuana license or recreational retail for Down Valley HYH.
All right, thank you, Pam. Any questions of council for staff or the applicant? Hearing none, I'd encourage a motion.
We need to open the public hearing, sir. I'm sorry.
Sorry. All right, we will open the public hearing. Let the record show is 7:48 p.m. And if you have any comment or question as a member of the public, please call in. We'll keep the phone line open.
Okay, so we're good. And we didn't receive any emails or calls during the public comment period.
All right, thank you. So I'll close the public hearing at 7:49 and ask if there is a motion from council.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the renewal, the retail recreational marijuana license for Down Valley HYH DBA Good People located at 175 Midland Avenue, Unit 210, Basalt, Colorado, contingent upon the applicant meeting and continuing the conditions and recommendations stated in the staff memo dated September 8th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely, thank you. Let's begin with Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you. David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. And Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Good night.
Night.
So our next order of business is an executive session to take up the matter of real estate matter. And so maybe, Jeff, you would introduce the executive session and explain the reason for the meeting. So hopefully this will be a full and thorough and disclosure of the purpose for our executive session in light of recent events. So,
Mr. Mayor, in your packet is suggested motion to move into executive session. At that time, we'll cut off the public recording and start up the executive session recording. And Pam, are we set up to make that transition?
I believe so. We will stop broadcasting live and we will continue the Zoom meeting. We do have the second recorder set up for the executive session.
Okay, very good. Well, the purpose of the executive session is to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, and for sale of property interest in accordance with CRS 246424A, more specifically to discuss potential purchase of Lot 4 of the Mid Valley Center. So, although I just said that, I'd like for a town council person to make that motion, which can be seconded, and then we'll take a roll call vote as well.
all righty, thank you. Is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss the matter outlined by our town attorney?
Mayor, I move the town council enter executive session to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of property interest in accordance to CRS 24-6-4024A, more specifically to discuss the purchase of Lot 4 Mid Valley Center.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I think we can do a voice vote on this.
I think on this one, we'll need to take a roll call. I know we've had a few in a row here, but we need one more.
Okay.
I'll try and be quick. Let's begin. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you. Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Tenenbaum. I saw your lips move, Gary. Thank you. David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Infante.
Yes.
Motion carries. 7:53.
Okay.
So let us go shut down the broadcast. Let us set up the tape, and we'll be back shortly.
Okay, thank you. So as soon as we are officially off.